From San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo, the Riverwalk, and the World Heritage San Antonio Missions, this is the Exit Planning Coach podcast with John F. Dini. Designed to help advisors who work with business owners, John talks with top professionals in the exit planning field about best practices, marketing tips, and how to be more effective when working with owners. Now, here's John F. Dini.
Hi there, and welcome to today's episode of the Exit Planning Coach podcast. I'd like to really welcome Linda Hamilton today. Linda is a CPA and a certified exit planning advisor. She practices both in Manhattan, half a block from Bryant Park, one of my favorite places in Manhattan, and also in Fort Lauderdale, where my son lives. So I'm familiar with both her abodes. Linda is a specialist in business issues and transition for women. She is a critical client flow and concierge level systematology. We can talk about that for a bit. Professional, besides being a CEPA. She's a certified public accountant, as I said, a certified systemologist, a certified exit planner, a Mouse accredited partner, and chapter co-president of the Institute of Advisors. She also told me before we got on that she has been the controller for WPO, the Women Presidents Organization, for a number of years. We won't say how many. She was a volunteer preschool teacher for 25 years, which I've got to figure, Linda, is excellent preparation for working with business owners.
Yes, it is. I would say it's taught me patience. Taxpayers also, not just business owners.
Yeah, people in general. Not that we procrastinate on tax paying. And she has two websites. I'll get to that in a second. I'll let you recite both of them and give people the addresses when we come back from the break. But the first thing that I wanted to ask you, what led to your decision to start working with business owners on exit planning? You went and got a certification in it. What stirred your interest in that area?
Well, as I said, I have owned a CPA firm for more than 30 years. And so it's not just that I'm an accountant, but also I'm a business owner. Right. And I am a member of the Women Presidents Organization for a very long time. And over the years, more than 20 years, these questions come up. Should I sell? Should I not sell? My employees are thinking of buying me out. All the time we have these roundtable discussions and or kind of hot seats, some people might call them, of helping another business owner work through her choices. And that's what attracted me to becoming certified, to becoming a CEPA, so that I could add that service and be more of a powerful ally for my clients.
How long have you been doing this kind of planning?
So I have been doing workshops for the one-page business plan method I use for more than 10 years. I run a number of programs across the country, and I have been working with Mouse and growth and profit improvement strategies for many years. So I've just added the certification in exit planning in the last few years.
How do you start out? Describe for me, if you would, your typical first meeting with a client.
I always do a discovery call. I may use different tools for that because it really depends on the business owner, what their gross revenues are. Generally I've had some conversation with them about why they would like to speak to me. That diagnostic, whether I use one of the exit planning assessments or whether I use the Systemology assessment, which is about their systems, what's working in their business and what's not working in their business. And the reason that really works well is it gets them talking about their business. So, there's nothing better than going through a whole conversation, which is going to lead me to a lot of pain points, a lot of issues and opportunities that they might have.
Yeah, I know I've mentioned this in the podcast before, but the handbook, the Exit Planning Coach handbook that we put out in January has coaching quotes in the front of each chapter, and one of my favorites is Andrew Carnegie's, where he says, so he became convinced that I was a great conversationalist simply by me listening.
Exactly. And as a CPA, I wear a lot of hats. I've been an advisor, I've been a mentor, I've been a coach, so it's knowing which hat they need me to wear. in the conversations I'm having with them, because I do take a holistic view of my business owner clients.
That's a good point, because you mentioned before we got on, you were talking about explaining to clients that you were doing planning for, or you're doing value enhancement work for, that you were very specific. I am not your CPA right now. Why are you that concerned about drawing the line, and what is different about your coaching consulting world versus being their CPA?
I see the difference more in that, being a CPA is a very regulated profession, right?
Sure.
I can only put certain things in writing. I can only do an audit review or a compilation, or, plain paper where I have to write all kinds of disclosures and disclaimers about what they're engaging me for. And a coaching role, and I also think of myself in education, maybe came from teaching preschool for so long. I do enjoy teaching. That's a different hat. I'm not looking at their work in the same way. So when I'm wearing that hat, I'm more raising questions. I'm raising questions for them to think about, questions for them to go down the path. They're often more interested in the questions I ask them to think about than they are necessarily in a solution that I have to offer. And I'm not always the one to offer the solution. I may bring in other accountants, lawyers, financial planners to maybe go deeper on the expertise that I don't have.
It's interesting. And none of us, and we repeat this in exit planning all the time, although some people mean it more than others, none of us can do it all. I was just talking with one of the other exit planning organizations, and John Leonetti up in Boston. And he made a really good point. He said, we put the teams together because exit planning is the only time you're doing personal planning and business planning parallel at the same time. He said, and, you've got transactional advisors, whether it's insurance or business brokerage, or, people that are going to have an interaction with the client. And you've got relationship advisors, starting off with their certified public accountant, and then their coach, and then their attorney, who plan on being with this client, financial planners who plan on being with this client over a long period of time. And this is really the only time that both those types of advisors have to work together in order to have a successful outcome. I thought that was really interesting.
And I'll tell you that I've conducted my entire practice, more than 30 years, that way, because if all the advisors are not on the phone, even when you get to tax planning and structure and things, when a business owner is having separate conversation with every advisor, things get missed.
Yes.
What they tell one doesn't happen with the other. The goals get messed up. Someone maybe does something they weren't aware of. I've had a lawyer restructure a company without having a conversation with me. It had tax consequences. This was not a tax attorney. So it really does help to take that perspective of collaboration. We all want to help the business owner, work out what's right for them.
You know what that reminds me of? I used to, in one of my past lives, I used to run a string of primary care clinics. And the constant complaint of the doctors is that there's another doctor doing something that I didn't know about.
Yeah, exactly.
The patients don't tell us about their other prescriptions. They don't tell us about what else they're being treated for. It's kind of a fear,
Right.
If you know it all, you'll make me stop something.
Exactly.
How do you market for new business?
I mostly use speaking workshops. I do a fair amount of pro bono speaking for nonprofit agencies who want to do something for their membership. And I always have. That's always been my preferred way of marketing, because I think it helps me show prospects what it's like to work with me, what it's like to talk to me and about issues. So personally, that works well. And it's transitioned well, even over the virtual world we're now living in. It took a little while to get my workshops to work as smoothly over Zoom as they did in person. And I missed some of the interaction, but there's a lot of ways to make it interactive with breakouts and exercises, even on Zoom.
When you're talking to a new client, or when you're talking to a prospect, everybody wants to know, what are the magic words that make them into a client?
I think it's the diagnostic. I think when you do a diagnostic with a client, whether even in tax, I'm telling you for years, if I have a conversation over an hour, I'm not worrying about selling. I'm not thinking about selling. I am simply asking them a lot of questions about their business. And then I'll insert some things I might consider. Have you looked at it this way? Maybe we could take this approach. By the end of the call, they always want to hire me, even to be their accountant. Now, sometimes that'll come down to having a price disagreement over something. But the engagement, the way I ask the questions, and it shows an interest in them. If you show an interest in what they're doing, what they care about, what their goals are, what's working in their life and what's not, they think this person gets me. And that's the best way of marketing.
Yeah. No, it is. And, our pitch, you've read our stuff. Our pitch is advisors start giving advice long before they should. I have the debriefing guide that we use that I developed after 25 years of talking to business owners. Many times we will get through that from beginning to end, and they'll say, none of my other advisors know this about me. I've never talked this much about what I want or what my company is going to do. It's a matter of back to listening again. One mouth, two ears.
Yep.
I was told that when I was a little kid and I didn't understand it.
I like that.
So let me take a break for just a minute to pay for the podcast. We'll jump in here, and I'm not sure. I think we're still pitching the book, but then we'll come right back and finish up. I've got a few more questions for you because this has been great so far. Hello, John F. Dini here, and I'm very excited to announce the publication of the Exit Planning Coach Handbook. Inspiration for the handbook comes from my 25 years of working as a coach to business owners, with 12 of those years dedicated to helping them plan their business transitions. It is a guide for advisors that explains why working with business owners is so dramatically different from working with other executives. It provides insights on how to approach planning conversations with owners more effectively. Plus, it takes you through the steps that will help you develop your relationship as their most trusted advisor. I wrote this book for advisors who want their clients to move on to a second act that's even more rewarding than their first. If you read any of my previous books, you know I don't lecture. It's a conversation between two professionals. If you work with business owners, I strongly encourage you to read the Exit Planning Coach Handbook. I think it will quickly become a go-to in your reference library. It is currently available on Amazon and the Kindle store in paperback and as an audiobook. Welcome back to the Exit Planning Coach podcast. I'm here with Linda Hamilton, a CPA and CEPA exit planner and a certified systemologist. Linda, for people who would like to reach out to you, especially female business owners, can you give us your contact information, please?
Yes. They can look for me on LinkedIn if they look for Linda A. Hamilton. I like to joke that if you search Linda Hamilton, you may come up with the actress who starred in the Terminator movies. So Linda A. Hamilton, CPA, and
that's not you. Oh,
I get her mail, but they are. And I have two websites: lahcpas.com, and we've started a new one, growprofitscale.com. Pretty much because I can add more resources that focus on the whole of business growth, profitability, including exit planning, where the CPA site is more focused on tax compliance, tax planning, and accounting issues.
Before, during, after a planning engagement, through the entire relationship process. I know you focus on working with women business owners. You're not exclusively working with women business owners. But
no, not exclusively, but that is mostly who I will probably target my messages to. Right?
Okay. So other than gender, describe your ideal client.
Generally, if I'm doing systems work, it might be, that they have 3 to 10 employees. The revenues are less of an issue. If I'm working with them on growth and a one-page business plan or one-page exit plan, it would be probably, under 10 million. In revenues, and probably a sweet spot would be the 500,000 to 5 million.
Any particular type of personality or industry that you like or avoid?
I avoid SEC work, broker dealers, manufacturing. I do like working with service business owners. Mindset. I think I like working with business owners who, they read a lot. So they're often interested in books about growth and mindset and, kind of being open to challenging their assumptions, that they're interested, that they would be also, they're open to being coached and mentored as well, because I think others might not be as interested in working with me longer term or in taking the programs.
What's your biggest challenge when you're doing exit planning?
So my biggest challenge is not just about, I think, the exit planning, but it's more about the term exit planning. And I'm finding that I want to define it differently, creating an awareness about it, no matter how small you are, because if 55% of business exits are unplanned, or, sometimes you'll hear other statistics, that means it could happen to anyone, right? It could happen. It doesn't matter what your age is. So if exit planning focuses on growth, profitability, de-risking your business, those are great business strategies. Why not think about exit planning, no matter whether you're thinking about it or not? I'm not ready to sell. And that's the answer you'll get for, let's say, women business owners aged 35 to 45. Unless they've built a business that they plan to sell, they're not thinking about it. Right? They're still in growth mode. But their growth strategies can really be important. If they're trying to minimize taxes and that's all they're doing, minimizing profit and taxes, then they're not looking at profitability and reinvesting in the business, maybe to increase the value of the business.
Right. Yeah, I heard an interesting piece recently that, the reason private equity is so successful when they come into these companies is because they don't have the same attitude towards risk that the owner has. The owner's gotten to a point where he or she is getting an income. It's fairly stable. They're not ready to go banco and just put it all, push it all into the middle of the table and see what we can do. That there's a little bit of lifestyle preservation required in there.
And that makes sense. And I have coached business owners who have decided not to exit. They decided the amount of money they could get for their business didn't make sense. And they still had years that they could put into it. And they changed their business model and kind of changed it more of a lifestyle, support their lifestyle, and continued with the business.
Do you have a particular, this is an advisor to advisor podcast, so we like to do hints for people. Do you have a process or a solution that for things that come up over and over and over again when you're working with a client that you get, and I do this and that takes care of it?
So I think in part it depends on the advisor's mindset. I heard a coach say she was frustrated with her program. It was a 3-month program. I think it was focused on marketing and growth. And she was frustrated because the business owners were not getting their homework done. They were not doing what they needed to do to get on. And she felt that was a failure of her part. I don't approach things that way. My definition of my success as an advisor is not the same as my client's definition of success. I do want to know what their definition is. But I think if you can step back and say, your clients are going to find value in the questions you ask of them, that will lead to a better discussion, a more informed decision, whether you can help them or whether somebody else can. They will always remember that you help them with those questions, and they will trust you further in bringing all kinds of problems to you. And that's my best advice. I know some advisors only want to work with people, on accountability, that they're moving the goalpost exactly what they said. I'm willing to let the client define what they want from me in my coaching and mentor role. Sometimes it's coaching, sometimes it's mentoring, and sometimes I will put on my CPA hat.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. And too many of us go in trying to prove how smart we are in our particular area. And that doesn't make you the most trusted advisor. That's not what does it. It is the questioning. And you just rephrased our definition of the most trusted advisor, which is they call you first, even when they know it's not your area.
Yes, that's right. They do. That keeps them with you a long time often, because
Yes.
they really do want to they
Yeah.
want your insights, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about doing this.
And you can't be embarrassed about saying, I don't know. I can't think of a situation, but if a client was ever upset with me for saying that, we just weren't a good fit from the start, I guess, What is your best source of referrals? We all live on referrals, where do yours come from?
The networks I'm part of, the organizations, I'm a member of WeBank, which is Women's Business Enterprise Council. That's national. From WPO, people get to know you when you're part of these peer groups. Also from attorneys, maybe wealth planners. I think other advisors who maybe are more transactional than I am, business brokers, where maybe they find their prospect needs a little more on the coaching side, is not quite ready to meet with them at that level, could work through some things with me first before I send them back.
Lots of advisors are adding exit planning to their skill sets. I mean, you like I am, we're members of EPI. We see what EPI is cranking out. I mean, I believe this year they're scheduled to do 150 to 200 new certifications a month. What would be your advice to somebody that says, I want to add exit planning to my professional offerings?
Well, I've referred a number of colleagues to it that are not accountants. And I think it's great because of the mindset. I think I've seen recently, if you only have the accountant mindset, you only have the lawyer mindset or the financial mindset, you're not looking at the whole. Exit planning gets you to think about the business as a whole and about the team of advisors that are needed. So I highly recommend that accountants in particular, I think, should add exit planning, because it's something other than CFO or controller work, which so many accountants and MBAs offer. This can set you apart and make you, it's a valuable service. And I think when you add, the fact that it's not just to exit, but it's about the journey and about growth, your clients will appreciate it, and it gives you something else to keep them with you.
I have had, and I'm sure you will be aghast at this, I have had CPIs tell me, why would I want to do exit planning? I would lose the client.
Well, if they sell their business, you're going to lose the client anyway. You might as well help them. You might as well help them along the way, and they stay with them personally. Yes. I think it does take a different mindset. It's a different skill set, which is why I'm thinking of two websites, right? On one, it's all about regulation and compliance and tax planning.
It has been a pleasure. I love these overviews. We're starting, actually next month, we're going to start doing a couple of panels. Love to get you back on a panel to talk about specific topics. I think it would be really worthwhile, especially with your grow profit scale work. And also, maybe we'll have one on peer groups. I think, you and I both have a lot of experience in that area. We know how valuable it can be to a business owner. And I've had a number of exit planners call me up because of my background and say, should I do this? I know EPI suggests it. It's not a big part of their offering, but I know I've heard Chris Snyder say a number of times, that putting business owners together in a group has great benefit, both to the owners as well as to the advisors. So that's a good idea. Thank you.
It is I think it's an excellent idea, and happy to join you in the future. And thank you for inviting me onto the podcast. I enjoyed talking to you.
Well, I did too. Thank you very much, and have a terrific day.